Hello, everybody. Welcome back. I'm Sam Beckinsale, actor, advocate, filmmaker, whatever, and my beautiful US counterpart, Kat. And we're here talking about domestic abuse, domestic violence, and anything else that pops into our heads. So,
I think we
Kat,
should kind of go on a drive today.
well, yes, you see. So, I have this thing today about what is it that I don't know if you have this, but certainly with partners, I love driving. I really love driving. I love the speed. I'm not a complete and full petrol head, but I love cars. You know, love that sensation. I drive up motorways at 2, 3 in the morning. Just the freedom that being in a car gives you. But why is it that as a woman, when you you go to get in the car, even if it's your car, your partner will be driving and you're in the passenger seat? What is that? You know, I don't. But this idea that me as a woman will drive at 20 miles an hour, hunched over like driving Miss Daisy, it's, I just don't do. I don't tailgate. I don't. There's one fella I knew. He would literally drive. His joy on the motorway was to drive at 99 miles an hour. The skill was to keep it at that, because if he went over 100, it was an automatic ban. But if he was stopped, he'd still get the ticket and all the rest of it, but it wouldn't be an automatic ban. It's like, what is it that drives that? And what is the assumption that when it comes to driving that, I can't drive him?
Right. But I think it goes into competition. There's an element of competition in competitiveness in these relationships where they don't want to feel like they've been one-upped. They want to be on top, whatever that on top means to them. So,
do women have road rage?
I can.
But I mean, do we do it to the sort of like the same level?
No,
I mean, I certainly wouldn't get it. I mean, I might shout and swear and all of that
right.
in my car, but I would never get out.
No, I wouldn't get out either. I'm just teasing. There is, and it's something about ownership of the car, ownership of the people in the car, ownership. If you're in a car, you're being driven. You can't get out unless you want to, But
yeah,
and if you get out, it's. I just had a thought about that. Gabby Petito, the girl that was killed here in the U.S. He would have her get out of the car because she was being too. I think it was OCD. She was being too OCD inside the car, so he'd have her get out of the car and lock her out of the car. Which is interesting because you think of safety. In Wyoming, where they were from Florida, so she knew nobody. And it was to drive that he had that control over her safety.
Over her safety, he could abandon her at any moment, all of that kind of thing. And actually, what was really interesting, what you said about ownership, because ownership is such a key part of these relationships. They don't see you as human beings. You are a possession to be owned, like a toaster, no different from a toaster or a fridge or a car. So maybe that's maybe somebody who behaves that way around. I hadn't thought of this, but maybe somebody who behaves that kind of way around driving and maybe makes the excuse, well, I'm just being gentlemanly, so I'll drive you when it's your car, which is not gentlemanly actually. And we, maybe that is a red flag that is something that we can be aware of. If somebody's not happy to be driven by a woman, by their partner, that may possibly indicate that they're not somebody you would necessarily want to continue that relationship with. But the ownership element is so fundamental right the way through with everything. These people actually feel that their sense of entitlement as well, that they're entitled to be the driver. They would never consider actually that you're entitled to drive your own car, and that's what should be automatic. So that's a key element, isn't it?
Right. I mean, we even go to, like, when you're going to a gathering, they have the control over that environment. If they're driving erratic and you're having to, like, try to make sure that you're okay and that you're not hitting anything because their anger is out of control in the way that they're driving, in the aggression that they're using to drive, in the competitiveness that they're using to drive. Now you go into a situation and you're nervous because your nerves have just been shot from this situation. I think that's another way they use that in order.
Yeah. So you seem
control.
erratic, nervy, because you've just had this. Yeah, and I mean that's happened to me actually. A friend of mine just had it with. He was a neighbour who. Her car was in the garage longer than she expected. She needed to get to work. Offered a lift, and he came to get her and was in a temper. And when she got in the car, and she's known, it's a couple. She knows his wife, and he was going to take her somewhere else, and she was like, "No, I want to go home. No, I want to go home. No, you can't get out of the car because it's speeding." And she said that pit, that feeling in your stomach of like, how do I actually get away from this? Because he was in control of the car, refusing to take her home. She had to say it really strongly quite a few times, but it wasn't until she got, and of course she was a wreck when she got home. But it does come back to that ownership thing, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think it does.
The ownership over her time, complete control over what's going, whether she's going to get home, when she's going to get home, how she's going to get home. And it was totally in his power and his domain because but he wasn't a stranger. But it's completely changed her perception of him.
Well,
obviously, now.
It also goes to the idea of making somebody's environment unstable, which drives that brainwashing kind of stuff. You're unsure as to how that's going to be. Are they going to be nice? Are they going to be nice? Is the car going to be erratic? I've had somebody talk to me about parking. You have to park the car a certain way if you don't have the car parked a certain way, or you don't have all the windows rolled up, or you don't have the radio station on the right channel when they get in the car. I mean, there's just a lot of control, and it's so very individualized that people can't understand how anybody would sit there and think that they have to park in the same spot. Yep, you have to have everything just perfect so that when this person gets in the car, everything is kosher. Otherwise, it's going to be a problem. It's like that lady with the butcher. Oh, you know how it gets.
Yeah.
And others would be, just like it wasn't a big deal. The abuse is is just different in how it's presented, but the pattern is there if we look for it, right?
Yeah. And, I think if somebody has something like, a genuine illness like OCD, that's one thing. But when somebody is quite happy to be parked in a different spot with somebody else, it's all about the bigger picture as well, I think. So, for instance, it's what happened to me. So I would get flowers. Quite people would send me flowers. They knew I loved flowers, and it was like he had hay fever, so he would sneeze around the flowers that I received. So my natural response was, that's like really badly, So I would move the flowers. Then it got to the stage where I would pinch the stamens out of the flowers so that the pollen wasn't there, but I could keep the actual blooms. Then it got to the stage where, like, every time he came past and he was sneezing and he was suffering and his this, that, and the other. If somebody sent me flowers, I would put them out on the doorstep. And then it got to the point where I would say to people, don't send me flowers anymore, please.
And I bet you really love flowers.
But, yeah, and I did. And it was because he was allergic, this, that, and the other. He didn't have that problem with the flowers in anybody else's home. And when he targeted his next victim and they got married, the flowers that were absolutely everywhere, apparently. So it was just all alike. So it's that something as small as that and as subtle as that, but that's the same with the cars. So they have to park in the same spot, the windows, this, that, and the other, or they're going to get upset. How are they in somebody else's car? How are they when somebody else parks in a different spot? How are they when somebody else is where they literally, usually probably another man's car, where they have like no possibility of being in that driving seat, where they don't have that opportunity. And the likelihood is they're perfectly fine.
Right. And it really wasn't about that anyway.
No.
It was about taking something away from you that was precious. It was about controlling that situation and trying to see where you would move to fix that so that it wouldn't be a problem.
But if somebody is genuinely, it's causing, it wasn't just distress, it was causing a physical pain. It's like you with your, you have asthma. If I were to carry on doing, I care about you. So if I was to do something that actually triggered a physical discomfort, illness, or whatever in you, of course I'm going to change my behaviour around you. But if we were living together, then that behaviour would need to permanently change. But it was about the con. It was about the con. And it is a con, just like any other con man. Exactly. That was my point about the car parking space. It was a con. But we don't expect people we're in one-to-one intimate relationships with to con us like that on every single level. But that's how subtle and how... Because I've questioned myself, should I have set a boundary and said, no, I'm going to have my flowers and you can just have hay fever?
Yeah, but if you're not...
I'm not going to do that to somebody that I care about and love. I just wouldn't.
If you're not getting the information that's not correct, how can you? He wasn't giving you correct information. He was just conning you.
Yeah,
because if it was correct, then it would have just been done and done with.
Well, if I had known the reality, the truth, there's no way I'd have taken my flowers out.
Right, exactly.
He'd just have to put up with it. But what's interesting about that whole little scenario is how we blame ourselves as victims, but also how others look to us and say, well, why didn't you just stand up? Well, because I'd been lied to, very deliberately lied to. Now, unless we spend our whole time asking for triplicate proof of everything that everybody says, like, can I see your medical records, please, before we decide whether I'm keeping the flowers or not? We're not going to do that. We can't live like that. We can't have relationships like that.
Right.
So it's less about how we react to the lies and the cons and the cheating and the control and the abuse, and more about recognizing some of the tactics. And I suppose even when we're, it's something that I'm having to learn, that even in intimate relationships, we just to look for the odd little signal and look at the bigger picture and go, does he have a problem in every parking space? Does he have a problem with every bunch of flowers? Does he have a problem with the way everybody cuts a slice of bread? Does he have and if not, that gives you an indication. So for me, it's about learning those little, I suppose, like when you're driving, just learn with experience and with time and with the odd accident or two, you learn those little shortcuts that mean that you're safer, you get there quicker, and you can get home without having to do a massive detour.
And I think you brought that up at the very beginning when we started the talk about them. If you're driving and they're okay with you driving, then that would be like maybe a green flag.
Yeah.
Something that lets you know that they don't have that competition, or they're not worried about that.
They don't have that sense.
But if it slowly starts to come in, then it becomes, what is that? And I think people that don't live that way don't understand what all those tactics are about. In how they drive.
Yeah.
How they drive their tactics, how they drive their
clever.
Power
That's
and control.
Clever, like.
So I guess we'll be steering in another direction the next time we talk, eh?
We will, my darling. Let's put the brakes on for now. Look at us two. Me.
Exactly. We'll do that.
Arriba.
All right. We'll talk to you later.
Awesome, darling.
Till
Talk
next
to you
time.
later. Bye.
Bye-bye. Hello. Thank you for watching our channel today. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the bell for any new content, and find us on Patreon and your favorite podcasts. We hope we're one of them. Bye-bye.